Joining me now, though, is one of the leading Republicans in the state Senate of Virginia from the Chatham area, Senator Bill Stanley. Sir, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you this morning, John. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine. I was excited to have you on because when I stopped in your office the other day, you had a comment that you gave me that I thought summed everything up. And I said, well, what's going on with Medicaid expansion? And you said, we're going to go big, really big with something that is sustaining, enduring, and meaningful. And we're not going to just go around the edges expanding a failed program. I really wanted you to expand on that.
Okay, John. Well, at first you just look at what we went through last night. The Marketplace Virginia was a nice attempt at trying to see if there was an alternative to Medicaid expansion. But when you really pull back the layers, and I applauded the Republicans who tried to put this together, it was nothing more than Medicaid expansion. And the problem is it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping head wound. What we're doing is throwing money at the problem, not creating solutions. And like I told you, we've got to go big or go home when it comes to this stuff. So what we need to look at is, I think, industry-wise, the healthcare industry needs to kind of revolutionize itself, and the state can help. We need to revolutionize how we deliver rural health care. A lot of our hospitals and doctors in the rural areas can't sustain an economic viability of their offices or the hospitals because we have a lot of the poor, the working poor, who use the emergency rooms like their doctor's offices. What we need to do is kind of move the emergency room out of the central focus of how we deliver health care, unless it's an emergency in the rural areas. We need to look at telemedicine. We need to look at how we can bring and retain primary care physicians down in that area and deliver health care where we increase the service but decrease the cost of service, because as we see in our premiums, a lot of time what we pay every month, the healthy people pay every month, is for the care of those who can't afford to pay. If we can bring the cost of delivery of services in the healthcare field down, we can increase the ability to help those in need without having the person that has a health insurance policy pay for it. We need to look at urban medicine and the way that we deliver there. We need to look at preventative care. I think what we have to do is, rather than pass the buck by giving the buck, what we have to do is really take a look at how we can take care of the citizens of Virginia in a way that will reduce cost and improve efficiencies.
Now, when you say pass the buck by giving the buck, here basically what you're saying is we're going to kick the can down the road by expanding this thing, throw dollars at it. But, at the end of the day, one of the things that Republican senators have really been criticized on is they're great at saying no, and for whatever reason, the media does not seem to get out their alternative ideas, or they don't have any, or they're not articulated properly.
And that's not an unfair criticism in some ways, and it's an unfair criticism in others. But that's why when the Republican caucus and the Senate got together, we cannot just put on the backs of the taxpayer this expansion, which is coming from the federal government, gives you a 3-year guarantee, and then after that you're on your own, or they'll reduce it to 50%. You can't, even in Marketplace, Virginia, say we'll expand to 400,000 people. We'll give 400,000 people, the working poor, that gap that's there, that exists between Medicaid and Obamacare. We can't give them that thing and then say, well, look, in 3 years when the federal government pulls it away, the money, and pulls back $1.7 billion, well, we'll just pull away your insurance. That's not only not fair, but quite frankly, I think what it'll bring is one of the largest class action suits you've ever seen in Virginia, which could end up costing the taxpayer billions of dollars in settlement or judgment. So what you've got to do is that it's not enough to say this isn't working. It's not working. It's not the solution. It is a good attempt. We've started the discussion. But what we've got to really do is say no because, not just no. And so it's, I think, incumbent on all of us, and I think what you'll find is senators like Jeff McWaters and others. I've been interested in rural health care. I've been working with Bill Jacobson, the CEO of our Carillion partners at the Rocky Mountain Hospital. We've been doing this for 3 years, working on a rural health care model which could be portable, which could be used in Franklin County or Grayson County out in the Southwest. And I think we can, within a year, we're probably a year away from showing how we can save the taxpayers' money and save the hospital's money. But so we have to develop now, not just say no and we did it and throw down the gauntlet. We have to say, because we have a better plan of delivering services to the citizens who need them most. I wish we could cover everybody, John. I really do. But if we cover everybody, and the federal government, which is swimming in $17 trillion in debt, it'll be $27 trillion in 10 years if Obamacare is fully implemented, is not going to be able to sustain the money to all of the states or any of the states. And so where are we going to find the money to keep that coverage? Because we can't rip it away from people once we give it to them. And the only two ways we can do it is in cost and services. So what are we going to do? Take $1 billion out of public education? You'll hear the VEA crow about that, scream and squawk. Or we're going to take away from public safety so that our people are in harm's way and the potential's there because we can't pay our sheriffs or state police? Or where's the other place going to be? And your friend and my friend Dick Saslow said famously on the floor of the Senate years ago, you can't tell me that there's not a tax increase that I don't like. I love all taxes. And what we're going to do is we're going to tax the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, which will stunt growth. So what we've got to come back with, and I think if you give us a year, you'll find the Senate Republican caucus will come back with some smart, common-sense solutions to the industry where we can partner with the industry to bring those costs down. That's really what our obligation has now become, not to say no, but to say no because. And I think you'll find next year's session we'll have a good package of legislation that will probably do that.
Common Sense News Time coming up on 8:45. We're with Republican State Senator Bill Stanley. He is from the 20th District, and that represents basically the Danville area. Now, Senator, I got to go to a quick word from our sponsors. I want you to stay with us so we can expand on this dialogue, but I want you to repeat a quotation that you just had, which I thought was worth repeating. You said, rather than pass the buck, we have to do what?
I said, rather than pass the buck by giving out the buck, we've got to go big. We've got to find a grander and a larger solution.
Bill, we've been talking about this all day. This is all interesting. The Republicans in the House, they say, look, we're going to be the firewall. We're not going to get this passed. But the problem is this is not just a separate amendment type of a thing. This is part of the budget. And you've got to get a budget because constitutionally, Virginia has to have a balanced budget, and it runs out June 30th. So you got to get one done, sign it, get it up to pass it, and get it to the governor. And if you don't do that, then the government's going to shut down on July 1. So it's a game of chicken. What happens?
Well, we've done this before. This is not something new because when we come right down to it, we're in charge of the purse of Virginia. We are the guardians of the taxpayers' money, and we also have a requirement to have a balanced budget. So, we fight tooth and nail to make sure that we put the right money in the right places to maximize the results for Virginia. In this instance, what you have is last night, late into the night, we went and debated the Marketplace Virginia. We debated the budget. It passed by 23-17. We had 17 Republicans, including our minority leader, Tommy Norman, voting against the budget, voting with us on this. So even though our budget passed, it passes over to the House. Well, the House historically never even considers our budget. It's kind of like a wish list. They don't even put it in committee. They slap their budget on top and send it back to us. Historically, then we reject it, and then what happens is a committee on conference, and conferees are appointed, sit down in the offices, work very late hours, and hash out the results. That's the process. But what we have is how long will the Democrats insist, who hold the majority in the Senate now, insist on Marketplace Virginia or something like Marketplace Virginia, such as Medicaid expansion, as the delegates in the conference insist and refuse to expand Medicaid. So that's where the play is going to be. I can tell you, I think if we talk to every senator or House of Delegates member, you would find that we all kind of believe we're going to go into overtime. And some may say, well, that sounds like Washington. Well, we have always come out with a fiscal spending plan for the next 2 years. We've never shut down the government. It won't happen now. But we may go into June debating these issues and trying to find solutions that are going to work for Virginians. So that's what's ahead of us. I do not anticipate when we break March 9 that we're going to have a completed plan, but stranger things have happened. Now, how much the governor gets involved in this as well is another thing altogether. There's been talk that he's just in a position where he just wants to expand Medicaid. There's even been talk from somebody that's, and I don't know if it's true or not, but who said that he said anybody that voted against Marketplace Virginia wasn't going to get a bill signed by him on his desk. So I think cooler heads will prevail. I think we can put it together. Time will only tell.
So we haven't really seen Terry McAuliffe weigh in. He sent a couple of emails around chastising House Republicans for what he thought was bad management, spanking them for rejecting Medicaid expansion again last night. But we've not really seen the wrath of McAuliffe. We've all heard in the past that he can be very, very bombastic and persuasive when he decides to get onto something. What type of an impact do you think that will have?
Well, I think my dad used to always say you can attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And I think in this instance, he'd probably be best to use one of his greatest tools, which is the charm offensive, rather than bombastic behavior, because ultimately the way that the government in Virginia is structured, you can't be too bombastic. You can't fire too many arrows from the governor's mansion and be effective because of the history of how we separate powers. Unlike Washington, where someone can rule by fiat, or somebody is trying to rule by fiat, as we see with Barack Obama and some of the executive orders, those really don't pertain to the legislative bodies. You can't really rule with executive orders in the manner that Barack Obama thinks he can up in Washington, D.C. So I think he needs to have a charm offensive. Every governor should have an effect on the budget. They should have some participation in it. But I'm hoping that when it comes to it, he's a facilitator, not an agitator.
A facilitator, not an agitator. I like that. Boy, you're full of good lines today, Senator. Looks like you ate your Wheaties or something.
Yeah,
you got
Friday,
up, right?
I get to go home and see my family. Very excited.
A facilitator. I got to jot this down. You're going to have to bear it with me. A facilitator, sure. Not an agitator. You know that's going to show up in my column in the next day or something. 8:55. We want to thank you, Senator Bill Stanley, for joining us today, giving us that fabulous insight. And are you going to be able to get home this weekend?
Yes. I had to stay here last weekend with a lot of the legislation, so I'm heading out of here as soon as we gavel out today. So can't wait to get back to Southside and Southwest Virginia, where I live, and I can't wait to see my family. All
right. Well, you have a safe drive, and we'll look forward to having you back. And we certainly appreciate your spending the time with us today, Senator. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much.